Imagine a guy who spends his life broke, unwanted, and constantly roasted by society. And then after he dies, his paintings become the blue checkmarks of the art world. That's Vincent Van Gogh.
Wow.
If Instagram existed back then, he'd have had three followers: his mom, his brother Theo, and maybe one lonely art student who thought he was edgy. But here's the plot twist. This man didn't just paint.
No.
He rewired how humans see color. He ripped light apart, rearranged it, and smeared it back on canvas like he was hacking reality's source code. The dude went from painting sad potatoes to literally bottling the Milky Way in oil. And the kicker? He did it all while society looked at him like he was just some failed side quest NPC. This isn't a story of success during life. It's a story of how someone so
Huh?
misunderstood, so broke, so unstable, still managed to change how we see the world. Vincent was born in 1853 in the Netherlands, and from day one, he was already an emotional, bugged-out character. Imagine growing up with the name Vincent van Gogh in a tiny Dutch village where everyone else was probably named John or Peter. He stuck out like a sunflower in a field of potatoes. He wasn't the fun, charming, class clown type of kid. Nah, little Vincent was that kid. The one who stared too long at a patch of grass,
Huh?
asking why green looks sad in the rain. He felt things too hard, asked questions too deep, and gave parents headaches trying to answer why the sky cried differently at dusk. Fast forward into young adulthood. Vincent's early career attempts? Disaster speedruns. He tried selling art for an art dealership. Spoiler, he was terrible at it. Customers wanted calm, polite service. Vincent gave them emotional breakdown with a side of aggressive honesty. Fired. Then he tried becoming a preacher. Turns out villagers didn't vibe with sermons that sounded like fanfic drafts of the Book of Revelation. Again, failure, unlocked. But through all that, the one thing that wouldn't leave him alone was the urge to draw and paint. The man was basically haunted by creativity. Even when his family thought he was wasting his life, Vincent knew painting wasn't just what he did, it was who he was. Vincent's life was basically a highlight reel of L's. He was broke 24/7, dependent on his younger brother Theo, who was basically his Patreon sponsor before Patreon existed. Theo was the only one who believed Vincent wasn't just some dude with paint addiction. He believed his brother was onto something revolutionary. But society? Society said, nah, bro. Critics called his early paintings ugly, too raw, too rough. And honestly, in the beginning, they kind of were. Take The Potato Eaters, one of his first major works. It's five people eating dinner under the worst light bulb in history, their hands looking like they could strangle you in your sleep. Critics clowned him, saying the figures looked like goblins. But here's the thing. Vincent wasn't trying to paint pretty. He wanted the truth, the raw, gritty life of peasants who lived on bread and potatoes. Still, truth didn't pay rent. And Vincent, he was constantly hungry, constantly sick, and constantly alone. If art supplies were a battle pass, he was always stuck on the free tier. Then came the glow-up. Around the mid-1880s, Vincent discovered Paris. And Paris, at the time, was like a DLC pack for artists, full of wild experiments, bright new pigments, and bold brushwork. Vincent saw the Impressionists, Monet, Renoir, Degas, and suddenly it clicked. He didn't need to stay stuck in the mud. This was his main quest unlock, color. Not just any color. Explosive, vibrating, impossible color. Vincent realized that color wasn't just decoration. It was emotion itself. He started throwing yellows, blues, greens, and reds onto the canvas like a DJ mixing beats. His brushstrokes went from slow funeral marches to full-on EDM drops. Where others painted light as soft and gentle, Vincent painted it like it had caffeine. His skies swirled. His fields glowed. His stars didn't twinkle. They roared. People thought he was nuts. They weren't wrong. But this was the point where Vincent truly started becoming Van Gogh. Vincent hit Arles in the south of France like it was his final respawn point. He rented this little yellow house where he imagined building an artist's utopia, like an early version of a creative content house. But instead of TikTok, it'd be oil paintings. And here, he went off. His sunflowers exploded with yellows so fierce they looked radioactive. His wheat fields, they hummed like living gold. The light of Provence seeped into his veins, and he painted like he was racing against time. But here's the plot twist. With brilliance came the breakdowns. Vincent's mind was glitching. He had manic highs where he painted nonstop, then crushing lows that pulled him under. The infamous ear incident? That wasn't just some quirky meme moment. It was the climax of a mental collapse, fueled by isolation, poverty, and inner demons louder than any critic. Yet in the middle of chaos, he painted Starry Night. That painting isn't a peaceful sky.
Yes.
It's the storm in his head made visible, swirls of madness turned into beauty. Those vibrating blues and that blazing yellow moon, it's Vincent screaming into the canvas, "I'm still here." The last years of Van Gogh's life were like an overclocked engine, beautiful but burning out. He created more than 70 paintings in the last 70 days of his life. Imagine dropping a masterpiece every single day while your brain is literally trying to delete itself. Fields of wheat under threatening skies, roots twisted into knots, portraits of doctors and townsfolk who didn't get him. Vincent was painting his goodbye letters in color. And then came July, 1890, a gunshot wound. To this day, nobody knows for sure if he pulled the trigger or if it was some terrible accident. But 2 days later, Vincent was gone. Just 37 years old. No fame, no money, no idea that the world would one day call him one of the greatest artists who ever lived. Here's the crazy irony. Vincent died thinking he was a failure. He sold one painting in his entire life. One. Yet today, his works sell for over $100 million, hanging in the world's most prestigious museums, printed on coffee mugs, tote bags, and dorm room posters everywhere. But his real legacy, it's not the price tags. It's the revolution he started with color. Van Gogh didn't just use color, he weaponized it. He showed the world that paint wasn't about perfect realism. It was about emotion, about how the world felt to the person living inside it. Those vibrating yellows, the swirling blues, the blood-red sunsets, they weren't random. They were Vincent's way of telling us that reality is messy, unstable, and electric. He made color scream, sing, ache, and burn. And in doing so, he cracked open the door for modern art, for expressionism, for every artist who ever thought, what if I just paint what's inside my head? In the end, Van Gogh's story is both heartbreaking and inspiring. He lived in obscurity, died in pain, but left behind a legacy that rewired the way humans see the world. He turned suffering into beauty, madness into meaning, and loneliness into color. So the next time you scroll past Starry Night, don't just think of it as a pretty picture. Think of it as a message from a man who felt everything too much, who was too bright for his time, whispering across history. Look closer. The world is wilder and more alive than you think.